What up, y'all? Malcolm, Game 7 CEO.
Justin Sinclair.
Kendall Gaskins.
Torrey Smith.
And we're here at Torrey's house, so thank you once again for welcoming us into your
Appreciate
crib.
y'all coming out, man.
And Torrey is going to just use his life experience, bigger than the NFL, combined with us. We're just going to have some conversations about some topics that we think can add value to the people that we work with and the people that we'll work with in the future. So we're going to jump smack into it. So, you seem like a pretty cerebral dude from the outside looking in. So, talk to us about the value of intellect when competing.
I think it's everything. It's an added advantage, for sure. You know, when it comes to competing, like you have to have the leg up. You have to process what's going on. That's actually one of the assets that, regardless of where an athlete stands on the spectrum, intellect is what separates you. You have to be able to process things. You have to be able to adjust. And for me, it's always honestly been that way. But also just dealing with life experiences. You learn to roll. You learn to adjust on the fly. That's why honestly playing sports teaches you some of the best life skills that you'll ever have.
So give me some examples from your experience where like this person had the intellect and it made them better, and this person had everything but it and it limited them.
I think we all know that type of person in our hometown.
Yeah, very much so.
Right, you know, there's a reason why there's hometown legends.
Yeah.
Right, people who didn't take it to the next level because they got comfortable where they were or didn't use what they were being told by their educators, what they're being told by their parents or whoever to take it to the next step. And honestly, a lot of them have it. It's about making a conscious decision to be disciplined and continue to work forward. But I think that goes for each and every one of us in our hometown. We know someone who could have done it, who had the ability, and they just didn't. And that's honestly what separates the good from the great.
Now, do you contribute that to how you were raised, something you just had, something you worked hard for?
I think it's when you want better, you know better, you do better. Right? That's real life. You know, for me, I knew that, you know, we struggled. It was a struggle for us, and I knew that I needed to make it out. And when I was older, the same situations that I grew up in wasn't going to be the same situation that, you know, my kids grew up in. And so all of my decisions, if they didn't align with that, it wasn't something that I was going to do and associate myself with. So it's just about being disciplined for me and having a goal and writing it down and really sticking to it.
So did you feel an extra burden since you were the oldest?
Absolutely. You know, I was the oldest. I, seen a lot, done a lot, and it helped. I matured a lot faster than, excuse me, than a lot of younger kids. But and looking back, I mean, it was very tough. But I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it because it made me who I am. I learned how to adjust. You build up some scars a little bit, and there might be a little bit of trauma involved, but overall, I've learned to deal with some of these things and made me who I am.
Trauma. What's your thoughts on trauma? I know that's kind of vague, but I want to see.
No, I mean, my thoughts on trauma is that trauma is real, especially as a black man. Like, that's something in our community that we don't tend to talk about. Like, you talk about mental weakness, like, man, that boy tripping, right? He crazy, but like people are dealing with, like, there's things that we deal with and the weight that we're expected to carry. And you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be tough. Like, we're talking about it and honestly addressing it. Some of the best things that you can do. Excuse me, I know from my own personal experience, the things that I've had to deal with and how it impacted me, but even beyond that now, dealing with kids and seeing what they deal with on a day-to-day basis, and you see a kid who's witnessing abuse at home, or maybe being abused themselves, and you wonder why they're acting out in school, or they've been abused in a way that their mind, they can't focus, and now they're not on grade level in school, right? Now they're behind, and you're thinking they're acting out because they're a bad kid. They're acting out because they don't know what they're doing. They're not confident in that. So there's a million more ways in which I can go with that. But trauma is something that, and mental health is something I'm very confident talking about because I've experienced it, I've lived it, and I've learned the feeling that you have of keeping it in, which is what a lot of us do. Like, I'm hard, I'm a man, like, I'm gonna keep it in. Or you're addressing, you deal with it. And there's different ways in what addressing it looks like.
Yeah, most definitely. And we were kind of talking in the car, not necessarily this explicitly, but people always talk about post-traumatic stress, right? And I see that one of the big things when you give back is focusing on educating people about domestic violence and how they can not have domestic violence, right? But very, very rarely do people talk about post-traumatic growth. You feel me? Like, there's a lot of things in all of our families, including you, as you just mentioned, that could be excuses for why we would not be as good as men as we are, right? Oh, my dad did this, so I'm just not going to do this today. Or my mom did this, so I'm going to use this as my crutch to not do this. Now, there could be reasons why you have a deficit, but just because you have a deficit don't mean that you can't get to the point where you overcome it and now you're making gain. So, especially like in a black community, man, this is me. I can't speak for them or you. But I still think like we hold on to a lot of things that are like very, very old. Part of our history, yeah, but like now with the amount of resources, especially working in education, we got so many resources, but not a lot of resourcefulness. But we still complain like, oh, things are lined up against the black boys or things are lined up against the black girls or whatever. And a lot of things are, but at the same time, it gets to the point like we got to take ownership to fight those things back and surpass them.
I mean, I agree with that 100%. I mean, there's a lot of life's easier when you have an excuse to hold in your back pocket, right? Like, I'm gonna go take this leap of faith, but just in case I don't, my folks ain't never left, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just makes it a lot easier because people are kind of afraid of the unknown. So for me, I knew what could happen if I didn't do certain things, right? I knew what would happen if I decided to go out here, drink, smoke, do whatever. If I decided to play around in school, like, I already knew what the results were gonna be. It wasn't rocket science, you know what I mean? So like, you gotta act differently. And so when you talk about the opportunities that may not exist in certain areas, which is very real, but like, who's gonna be the person that changes it? Like, these are all things that you can control. And the secret for me was just honestly realizing that there were a lot of things I couldn't control. I couldn't control what was going on at home. Couldn't control the abuse that I was witnessing or where we lived or whoever, but I control me. I control my attitude. I control the way I carried myself. I control the way I prepared. And I can control the way I went after my goals and my vision. And once you realize that, like, you realize the power that you have, and then you realize that everything else is honestly just an excuse.
Is that a skill set that you developed yourself, or from watching somebody, or maybe even connecting with somebody in your community or outside of the community?
For me, it's just about, like I say, you know better, you do better. That's honestly just what I've lived by, and I realized that. You know, like, as a kid, a lot of things I witnessed, I realized it was wrong. I look at my son, I was his age, and I knew way more than a 5-year-old should know, right? And I knew it was wrong then. So if I knew it was wrong, why am I going to try to repeat the same cycle? You know, you talk about like generational curses and things like that, like, it's because you're just comfortable, like, you know that. Like, these are things you witness, and that's just kind of the way it is. But I wanted better for myself, and I knew that sometimes it's not the prettiest way. It's not the cool way in a lot of ways. Like, it takes a lot of sacrifices. You become the boring guy, you know, in the sense that you have to, I mean, that's me. My homeboy right here tell you right now, I'm the boring guy, right? I've always just kind of just had my head in one direction. And, like I said, I didn't know what the results would be if I actually did everything that they told me I should do. Well, I knew what would happen if I did the things that I know they said not to do. So I was willing to chase the unknown versus being afraid of what's next, you know?
Gotcha. Really quick. Good. When did you become a believer in your own process?
I just think as you progress, right?
Okay.
Like, you talk about your own process.
Yeah.
Like, I take it as simple as having good grades.
Yeah.
I studied a lot. I studied, right? I worked hard at this. Now I perform when my process worked. All right, I'm doing extra stuff fitness-wise. I'm doing this. I'm playing better. Like, so it works. Like, once you have evidence,
Bingo.
then it helps, right? And that's in any situation. And so for me, I had that evidence. There's a lot of evidence that I didn't see in the people that were around me. But I saw the evidence in when you work hard, period. Even from the people who may not have been the best examples. I saw that when you worked hard, good things happened. And I was willing to run with that.
Perfect.
All right, so transitioning to the next question. So in terms of like excuses, and we'll kind of tie it into football. When y'all won the ship with the Eagles, when Carson Wentz went down, I think he was cooking that season. Like, oh my God, we lost the assumed, if healthy, MVP. And now we're going back to a backup who wanted to quit and XYZ, and whatever, something clicked for y'all. So tying in to y'all not using it as an excuse, clearly y'all went on to win and y'all embraced the underdog role. But what's the benefit of good coaching? You know, like tied into life, you know, include football. But that's what we try to do to help you.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. Like when you have, honestly, just faith and belief. And I'm not talking about just spiritually. I'm talking about like just that confidence in the person that's next to you. And when you believe in your process and what you're saying, you believe in your vision, you believe in each other, that you're pulling each other in the same direction and challenging each other to be better, then it all pays off. That's whether that's a team or a corporation or family, whatever it is. Like when there's a standard or a goal that you're chasing and everything's aligning and working towards that, you can live with the results. And you know, for us, obviously we got to experience it being at the top.
So I'm gonna ask this to both of y'all. Well, I kind of know this for you, but how is your team that you developed through your time in the NFL, just people in general, but during your time in the NFL, your team of people around you? Because I don't know the source, but I heard Shannon Sharp say a couple of weeks ago, in terms of the black athletes in the NFL, within 3 years, 87% are bankrupt and or divorced, which tells me that there's not a good support system around many of them, which is like kind of crazy to me. Obviously, I've never been in that experience, but 87%, that seems ridiculous.
I feel like, I think the numbers are exaggerated a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also think that people say that, and I don't think people understand the finances of the NFL.
Okay.
Well, educate us as much as you
Meaning that a person that may be on practice squad that made, let's say it's $100,000, right? Put them taxes in there now. Let's say living in California, right? Let's say he walked away with $50,000 in his pocket. Let's say he played 3 years, he has $150,000, and he still has his, his bills or whatever. He has the off season, he has to pay for training, he has to pay for travel, all these things, and he doesn't have a job right away. When he retires, like, you might go in a hole, or you anticipate, they said buying a property is a great investment, right? And all of a sudden you can't afford your mortgage. Like, it's easy to get your finances in a certain place, but also that's not making an excuse for the people who do blow their money, right? It does happen. But I think a support system and education matters. I tell people all the time, like, a lot of us don't have financial literacy, and I'm one of the people who I wasn't taught that. I just knew to save. Period. I just understood that. Like, if you want to have, and I was afraid of losing money too, so I've always just tried to save. But you give people a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures for some folks, right? And they don't know what to do with it, and it leaves a bad decision. You trust people who you think have your best interest in mind, and it leads to a lot of failures. And like I said, when you lack that type of literacy, it hurts sometimes.
I definitely piggyback on that. I'm very familiar with what Torrey was saying about being on the practice squad. So I was on the practice squad a couple of years, and living in California, that's real. I would be happy when we played games out of state. So along with that, once my last year with the Niners, everyone doesn't think their career is going to be over right away. So I'm still working out, moved back to Jersey, still having to pay rent with my brother. So along that time, you don't want to be like, all right, I'm going to just get another job, because you still want to chase your dream. So then you start having to start stretching and stretching. And then I didn't have any knowledge at all, just like Torrey. So I came into the league where, I'm an undrafted guy. I wasn't expecting to make lots of money right away. So I was making practice squad money here and there. Then all of a sudden I'm on an active roster, and it was just like, shoosh, like, what's going on? Never really had bread before in my life. So it was just like, what the hell? Like, my confidence was different. Like the way I walked in the room, like for real, like your first time you get that check, that first Wednesday when I was on that active roster, I tried to be cool. I was in that joint. Like, shit, let me see that stuff. Like so, it was just a good feeling, but. I definitely didn't have that knowledge of what the heck to do, and I didn't expect my career to just all of a sudden be done because no one expects them to be them. Like let's be real. Like you hear about most careers are maybe 2-3 years, but no one expects that ain't gonna be me. I'm good. Like you know what I mean. So I definitely feel it's I didn't have the knowledge to know or expect because I didn't really even have a mentor in the league either.
So did y'all like feel special in the league? Because I remember I was with Just.
Okay.
When he got picked up by the Bills, I called him.
I remember.
I said, yo, save all your money. Don't give me nothing. Don't give your mom nothing. Don't give Kels nothing. Lock it in until you get to that second contract. And then you can kind of see how you feel, right? But I also knew, like, how Kendall was in the league, he ain't never been the same. Like you said, like just how he felt, I guess he got to rediscover that feeling, which he's working on. But I also know, like, from that call, and then he went his direction. What you say, like, now I got caught up in the pressure and all those kind of things. Like, did you feel different when you were in the league? It seems like you knew some principles, but like, did it take you to another level?
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I've been the same dude. Like,
Yeah.
Like
What do you attribute?
I'm still walking around here with Crocs on, like, cause
Yeah,
I never really had like the material things. Like, the best thing in the league definitely was provide freedom, which is what I was chasing, financial freedom, right? But I never, like, my identity wasn't caught up in I'm a football player. Like, I didn't care to be recognized. Like, it kind of just happened, right? I never, I just worked. Like, football to me was always a tool. It was never the old, like, it was a resource. Like, I wanted to use football. I wanted to earn a scholarship so I can go to college. So I can get a degree. Therefore, I can make more money.
Bingo.
I know what happens when you only have a high school degree. Like, it's jobs, there's great careers out here where you can make a lot of money. But it's harder depending on which path you take. And so for me, like, I'm not shy about saying that. I'm not a person that's like, continue to educate yourself. For what? I'm telling you, I want to go to school. I want a degree because I know if I educate myself, I can make more money.
Bingo.
And that's a real, like, if you want to talk to anybody, any kid, that's as real as it gets.
Yeah, very much.
Because people will tell you, why should I go to school? Why should I care about going to school? Just because you got your education, telling a kid that, or an adult for that matter, educating yourself is the way. Like, you have to be honest with them. Why are you educating yourself? And so you can get to financial freedom or a nice job or whatever it may be. And so that was all a part of my plan. And to be able to make it to the league, expedited thing. It's a big difference now. But I've never, even after I'm retired, like, I don't feel like my identity's changed. Like, I feel like more people know me away from the game and from the way I am than actually playing. And I had a decent career, so I think that's probably helps more than anything. I feel like I've always been true to myself.
So one thing, the first time I met Torrey, I'll never forget this. So we just signed him, and you hear a bigger name player, you like, the first thing you like, how the hell this dude gonna be? Is he gonna be like asshole? Is he gonna be a good guy? Because you just never know. He was in there the first day. He was talking to everybody because our lockers, the running backs and the receivers' lockers were like right next to each other. And he just like, it was just like, yo, this dude's a genuine guy. You can tell because I'm an energy person. He knows, like, y'all all know I'm an energy guy. And it was like, yo, like, he's approachable, but you also know what he brings. So I think that was something I've always, I've respected you from day one. And because you didn't have to come in there and talk to none of us. You just got a fat deal, like coming off winning a Super Bowl recently. And like, you didn't have to do that. So I just respect how you carry yourself as a man. And I really do, man. I look up to you. So I just want to say thanks for that.
Appreciate it, bro.
So,
But I was gonna say, so a moment of honesty, I'm like a diehard Eagles fan, right? And like the craziest, happiest day of my life, which sounds crazy because I'm a father and all that, was when y'all won the Super Bowl. it was just a powerful experience. I'm sure a lot of people seen it on TV, but being there, black people, white people, Hispanics, Indians, but the biggest part, like the police. You know, like in our community, we got like a little edginess with the police, but just everybody was together, right? So that's like the power of the culture, you know, that sports bring. So to bring it to the specific question, what's the importance of culture on a team?
I think culture is everything to any team, any business, any organization, any family, because it sets the standard for the way you treat each other, the way you're supposed to operate, and really kind of puts it all out there, right? Like there's a standard, and there's such thing as having a good culture and a bad culture. Like what are you allowing that's toxic to your environment, your workplace, your team, your locker room? And so when you have a good culture in place, you know, like, I think it just, people say culture, like it's a word they kind of just throw out there, but I think it's just in the way you do everything, the way you treat people, the way you operate, your expectations, you know, your professionalism, your care for each other. When you're in a good environment, you know it. We all know what it feels like. We all know what a good culture feels like. When you enjoy being there, when you enjoy being at work, when you see dysfunctional things, it can destroy you the same way. So it's important to, you know, make sure that you're aware of it and it's something that's talked about, and that standard is it.
And it's like one of the hardest things, I know, especially like for me and Just, it's like going the opposite direction of like your typical culture. Because like if you're the first person in your family to break the cycle, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be doing things that look very different than everybody else.
And you'll be judged for it.
Yeah, 100%. Right? So that you can get out of that loop and like start the new culture. And I know that's very hard for us, like not having the NFL opportunity for like a head start at a younger age. It's just like a different route. Like especially now, the hardest thing on this path that we're trying to do to change our standard paradigm has been our relationships. Not really like our man-woman relationship, just relationships with other people. Because like you said, you get the pushback and all that kind of stuff, and that's extremely hard. But
you have to know it's worth it though.
Oh yeah.
Like that's probably like we talked about rewards earlier. Like you just have to know it's worth it. Like changing it is worth it. Like not dealing with toxic BS, not continuing to allow people to abuse you or whatever. Like there's power in that. Just because something was a certain way when you were younger or you experienced, like it doesn't have to remain that way. So like that's that power. We talk about controlling what you can control, man. And it's you're gonna be. I'm just thinking. I know for a fact I was judged heavy for my decisions. Our lack of financial literacy as a culture in my family, and then my need and want to learn more about. There's nothing like being in the NFL and hearing like everyone thinking you're a millionaire and that you can do this. So why so and so isn't in the mansion? Why your mom ain't got a Rolls Royce? Why you ain't got this? You got that? Like bro, like
you don't understand.
Like man, look here, man. Like I'm trying to make sure it's straight. You know. And on that note, the best advice I ever received was financially was simple. Steve Bisciotti, the team owner of the Baltimore Ravens, told me, it was like, would you rather live like a king for a day or like a prince forever? And I kind of just took that with me and try to put that into all my decisions, because a lot of things like you gotta, and as Herm Edwards speaks on, the power of one watch, one car, one this, one that. And to me, I just try to balance things out. Like, is it important, your wants versus your needs? That's the same for a millionaire, billionaire budgeting. Well, maybe not billionaire, but that's the same for any person on their budget, whether you're working at, you know, as a janitor or you're the CEO of a company. Like, you're understanding your wants versus your needs and how that impacts you and your goals. You know, if your goal is to YOLO, live once and do whatever you want to do, you know, live paycheck to paycheck, then you ain't got to worry. Like, just go ahead and spend it, right? But if you want better for yourself, you want to see what life is like without stress, understanding what stability is like. And stability to me and success, my definition of success is stability. Knowing where you're going to live, knowing what you're going to eat that night, like knowing that you have a means of transportation. Like, that's a big deal to me, but those are all things that weren't stable when I was younger. So that's why I create that vision. It's not, success to me isn't living in a big old house. I mean, I live in a nice house, you know, or driving the fanciest car or doing this. Like, that's like, what's that doing? You know, like, that doesn't, having a nice car doesn't save you any stress. I mean, it's cool, you can appreciate it, You know, like nice watches. I don't have a Rolex or any of those things. They're nice. I can appreciate. I'm not a hater to people that do have it, but I'm just not comfortable wearing 30,000 on my wrist when I'm around people who ain't trying to figure out where the next meal coming from.
Yeah.
So
I can identify, and obviously both of these men know me. I can identify completely with that, living like a prince forever, right? I'm almost like, to a fault, I'm the person that practices delayed gratification, like almost extreme, like almost borderline, like enough is enough, right? And I think, and I can appreciate, I'm just, given we're in a practice, especially now, people in society, especially people like us, we're shifting to learning to give people their flowers while they're here, right? Which is a little bit different than maybe how our culture had been marketed to the masses. Because one thing about us as black people, man, we some of the most forgiving and loving people that walk this earth, man. We've been done the dirtiest to everybody, and you can come to our community and know that you are welcome, and we don't receive the same welcome. And that's just the reality of the situation we may or may not live in. But I'm gonna give you flowers. I appreciate you for being able to identify or like put it in words what I practice, which is my definitions of success is stability. Because, man, growing up, not having what you need, oh man, it's an extremely like core pressure, right? That is not natural. But you don't really understand the magnitude of how unnatural it is until you get exposed in life, right?
Especially when everybody around you is in the same situation.
Like, it's the norm.
Yeah, it's the
and
norm.
Then as you get older and you experience certain levels of success, you realize how dysfunctional and how unhealthy that is. And at least for me, the way that God has expressed the need for stability is, I was blessed enough to have a dad in my life. I'm from New Jersey. I don't know if you know, well, obviously you know a young man from New Jersey. I'm from North Jersey, and our culture is very much about like being a very dominant, masculine, buff guy, right? My dad was very much the stereotype of that, very health conscious, and he got cancer at 48 out of nowhere and gone by 51. And then you begin to see life through a different lens, and you value stability in a different way than more so just financially, more so like health-wise. The biggest thing I can appreciate about your house is that you took time to invest in the gym, right? Because while we are looking to build things that, give our family stability and things of that sort, the reality of us as men is that we don't last as long, right? And I think many times that's the reason why many cultures are not firmly set in people's families, because men are here not to negate any woman's role, because we got to be extremely thankful that they've been able to overcompensate for our lack of playing the role as a leader. But I can commend you for that, man, because I see what it looks like not being able to finish your journey and where that leaves people as a result of you not making your health or just not having the awareness. Like financial literacy is not something that we're given traditionally in our culture as a tool set. Health isn't either, man. And I heard a lady say a couple weeks ago about that plantation plate. Never heard it put like that. But if you take a step back and look, it's definitely a part of our culture. But the more that you learn about food and how it affects your production or ability in life, you realize some aspects of that plate we've been taught wrong. And going against that culture is sometimes like pulling somebody's legacy away from them. I'm wondering how your own shift influences your ability to lead your two sons, right? Because they will be here as the first generation to start off in a place where maybe the Smiths that you come from haven't got a chance to. So how does that mindset influence your leadership to your children?
I think my kids are honestly a part of that growth. I mean, I'm learning on the fly. I ain't got it all figured out as a parent. Like, I'm learning how to give love. Like, I'm the most awkward person when it comes to love because it wasn't expressed, right? Like,
likewise.
Like, honestly, one of the most humbling things in my life is having to like talk to my wife about how I'm supposed to love her. Like, Like real talk, like because it's
man,
it's not like it's not natural, like, and then like, and I'm not afraid to admit that because it is like, dang, like you think you got all this, so many things you think you got figured out, like I ain't got that figured out, right? And they're a part of the growth. You know, I look at them, I just make sure that, you know, they're always aware that I love them, that I love their mom, I love their sister, right, and that all the decisions that I'm making is for their best interest in the same way I want them to make decisions for their own future and their best interest, and simply just being like good people,
right?
Because there's a lot of power in just being a good person. Not that you're gonna the impact that you have by meeting, like, some of the nicest people I've met are like greeters, like just their energy, like that, like just generally good people. Like we need more people like that, you know, and in all different types of positions. So as I go along this journey, you know, they're a part of it with me. And I'm far from a finished product or the man that God wants me to be, so I just got to continue to press and stay ahead of the game before they catch up and realize. But at the end of the day, they'll always know that, you know, I love them.
So, amazing thing. I think that also helps me shift at least my own journey from playing the long game to playing the eternal game, right? Because we're getting a chance in society right now to see the power of legacy, unfortunately through loss stuff. Right, obviously
you lose people every day, man.
Yeah, but I think for us, we've gotten away just as minorities. I'm biracial. My mom is Puerto Rican, right? And it's very, very small amount of people to lean on for direction and leadership in minority, coming from a minority background, right? All of us can like pretty much name like our legacy leaders of our culture, like on one hand, Malcolm, Martin, Marcus Garvey, you know, and you go down the list. And I think being present as a parent gives us an opportunity. Well, I don't have any children yet, but gives us an opportunity to be able to maximize that list or lengthen that list through this next generation. Because I feel like we're the transition generation. Like everybody has a part to play. But I feel like by far we are the most educated, formally educated as a whole. We have the most opportunity or resource or access to resources, and there's more of the regular man that exists at a competitive level in America, rather than just being in a position where you don't have resources. But I'll give you kudos again for helping me change that vision, man, because legacy is huge. When we talk about culture and tying it back into that, knowing that you come from your name, right, gives you an added commitment to making your life mean something, because you are of that certain cloth or that expectation. So,
I think the legacy matters though, like, and I think Kobe, one of my favorite athletes of all time. He's it's that Mamba mentality. Yeah, I'm thankful I had the opportunity to talk to him and see firsthand, like it's real, right? But I think about Kobe and his loss and his death, and understand that like we all have an expiration date. Yeah. Like I heard somebody say it last week or 2 weeks ago about it's all about what happens with that dash in the middle. You're born, there's that dash in the middle, and then it's over, right? And you just have to take advantage of that. So for every Kobe, like, I'm trying to be like the Kobe of my family. Yeah. You know, there's plenty of Kobe's that are someone's grandfather, their uncle, their auntie, whoever it is. And it's just important that you press forward, like, everyone will recognize that. The people who need to know will recognize that. Which are the people who are closest to you. And if we're going to impact and change, like, our generation with the opportunities that we have and continue to fight for those who don't have opportunity, it's got to start with us. And you mentioned it earlier, like, our generation is more aware of things. Like, we're educated on what we don't know and what we need to know. And also just honestly where we lack as people, and dealing with things that hurt you, like trauma, like being more aware and willing to address these things. So that education piece matters, man. And we have the opportunity. It's going to be on us to change.
All right, last question. what inspires you to give back to your community?
For me, my inspiration is kids like myself, families like myself, people like my mother. My mother was formerly incarcerated. She has a felony on her record, and I saw the way that impacted us, but I also saw the way she changed over the years. And also saw the fact that she probably wouldn't even have a record if she had a better lawyer. So you think about, from an advocacy standpoint, you fight for things and know that your dollar amount should never determine your sentence. Meaning that if you have money and you can afford a better lawyer, you should never just be able to get off because of that. And there's a lot of people, especially a lot of black people in impoverished communities, who are forced to take plea deals for things they didn't do because they're scared of the unknown. You talk about actually helping people hands-on, giving them resources when you know what it's like to not have. You want to make sure that other people have the resources that they need, because the potential's there. It's like the roads and the concrete. Like, you recognize the potential that's there, even though a lot of people may not agree with that. So for me, it's, I wouldn't be here kicking it with y'all if that wasn't the case. Me having a helping hand, people looking out for me. So when being in this position is like an obligation, I feel like, to help others and to show them the way, because ultimately all I have was my coaches and my folks who believed in me, and that's all I needed. And to give a kid hope and let them know that you believe in them, that you're confident in them. The sky's the limit for them, and it matters.
Yeah, that's dope, because when we go through our different game days, and the kids don't know us for anything, and we give them time, we talk to their eye, you just see them glow up, because it's finally a group of men, especially, that's kind of giving them that hope and that confidence that they don't have to follow the norm. So I could definitely relate to that, giving the kids hope, because I see it every time we have the game days as well. It's dope. It's like, dude, like, you just met me 2 minutes ago, and now you like in my face right here, and it's just like, before, when you think about younger, I remember one time Malcolm came to one of our games, and I didn't even realize that a kid asked me for an autograph, but I was so hyped that everyone was here for me that I was just still engaged. And he was like, man, go back, you don't understand what that's going to do for that little kid. And that's like, that's one thing that's really dope for me, because I understand that, like, now I've always had a big persona. Like, it didn't matter if I was the last dude on the roster or whatever, like, I still had the ability to affect everybody around me. And I think that's one of the best gifts that I have, and you definitely have that, because you just like got that energy about you. So.
But how you treat people matters, though. Like, I'm like, and it's even bigger when you're in a position where people know you. Like, there's nothing like getting your heart broken by somebody who you look up to.
Exactly.
Like, and especially when it's just by simple, like, you can say hi to somebody. Like, it might be hard to not be able to get them an autograph from time to time, but like, it does matter, because you remember that I got played by Joe Theismann. I'm not. I said in 2020 I'm not gonna keep bringing up that story, but
it still hurts.
I still
we talked about trauma earlier.
But then yes, that's definitely there. But I think of the flip side of that is having the opportunity to meet Sean Taylor and have him tell me, I'm asking for his autograph. He was like, I got you. I'm gonna go to my car, come back. He comes out. He's talking to me about ball. I told him, like, hey man, I'm just starting to get recruited. It's like, man, just keep working, stay disciplined, focus on your grades. All the same stuff my mama told me. All the same stuff my coach told me, but he told me.
It's different.
So it mattered. Like, this is somebody who's in a position that I can only dream of being in, and he took the time out of his day to pour into me. And that matters. So that's why every high matters, every handshake matters, because you never know where a person is. Maybe even on that particular day, you never know where a person is. So, I mean, all that stuff matters, man. It's just character. Have good character.
Yeah, agreed.
According to, from what you just said, it makes sense, because just from meeting you today for the second time, you do seem like extremely grounded.
That's
just, I don't know if you're conscious of it, that's just how you are, you worked on it. I don't know, but it does seem very natural. But that's it from us. Thank you.
Boom, appreciate
you.
Y'all gonna kick it next time, man. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate you. Good meeting you too, boss.
Yes, sir, bro.